Hey everyone. Well, remember last summer, all the buzz around the billionaire space race? You had Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin, Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic, and they were both kind of competing against each other to see who could be the first ones to send regular people up into space. Now, the success of those missions were considered a giant step forward for the space tourism industry. And I was really interested to see where the sector has come since then and some emerging trends and themes that investors should be aware of in the year to come. So I hopped on the line with Andrew Chanin. He's the CEO at ProcureAM, and they have a space ETF that you can find with the ticker UFO. And I got his thoughts on where he thinks the space industry is headed and some themes investors should keep an eye on for the year to come. Take a look. So let's just start by looking at last summer. We had, this a lot of buzz around the billionaire space race. I think it got a lot of people excited about the possibility of space tourism. So can you talk a little bit about, what those events really meant for the industry and kind of where you saw things progress over the year?
2021 was most certainly the year of space tourism as far as it getting off the ground. But it has a very long way to go as far as maturing as an industry within its own, within the space economy. And if you look at the most recent space report numbers, the overall size of the space industry for 2020 was about $447 billion. And many analysts project that by the end of this decade, space tourism will only be roughly $3 to $4 billion. So less than 1% of today's current overall space economy. So although there was a lot of attention and media focus on some of these great new milestones from several of these companies showing what they can do for the early stages of the space tourism industry, there's a lot more going on in space that's really driving the industry today. So things like the military and defense of space, as well as connectivity. So we're also seeing SPACs becoming a very popular way for private companies in the space industry to enter public markets. And these are all very critical changes for the space industry and ones that could have ramifications for years to come.
Yeah, and I'd like to get into some more of those areas that you mentioned. But before we do that, I'd really like to just ask, like, what do you think the investor takeaway was from these events? Like, how has the business case for space tourism really unfolded over the last year?
So space tourism is certainly very exciting. It's brought many high profile names across multiple areas, from entertainment to the space industry itself, and even for medical research purposes and other areas. There have been many leaders that have gone up to space. However, what we're seeing is that this isn't necessarily a straight line kind of industry. There are hiccups and there are roadblocks along the way. Virgin Galactic, having sent Sir Richard Branson up to space, was actually temporarily grounded by the FAA after its craft veered outside of its already pre-approved flight area. And because of that, it slowed down certain things with the company. And since then, the company has had to push back its estimates of when it will be able to continue space tourism. And so currently they're looking at having to wait until the fourth quarter of this year before they can start sending paid customers up to space. Another big area of change has been the actual cost of sending people to space. And so new ticket pricing has come out, new windows have opened for people that are interested in going to space. And it looks like we have several competitors now in this arena. We have Blue Origin, we have Virgin Galactic. We also have SpaceX, which is offering a much differentiated type of space tourism. Although the cost of a ticket for both SpaceX as well as Blue Origin is still unknown. So is there an area for a company to come in like Virgin Galactic and significantly charge a lower fee for maybe what is a fairly similar experience as far as time wise, weightlessness and near zero gravity? It might be a very similar type of experience that someone might get, but if someone can charge significantly less for it, there's certainly room for a competitor in this area. But then we also have other companies that have come forward talking about their ambitions to build orbiting hotels similar to a space station where tourists can go and actually spend several days aboard this type of space tourism experience. So we're seeing these entrants and we're just learning what the size of this addressable market really is. But price is going to be something that people are going to have to pay attention to. But the number one area of focus for each of these companies needs to be on safety. And to the extent that companies can send people repeatedly and safely that is something that I believe many customers are looking for in a potential space tourism provider.
So outside of space tourism, you mentioned that there were a couple areas where you've seen a lot of developments. Like, what are you really excited about right now?
So it's tough to say I'm excited about the specific area, but I think overall, for people to understand the importance of the space industry, the military and defense in how the space industry affects it has come into the spotlight right now with what we're seeing with the events unfolding in Ukraine. Maxar is a very large developer and operator of and manufacturer of satellites, and they have been providing very useful real time feeds of what is actually happening as far as troop buildup at the border, actual troops coming into Ukraine, being able to track all different types of things that are very important from a military analysis standpoint on where a potential force may be and what they're preparing to do. And they've been able to share this information with intelligence services, defense agencies, and groups around the world. And seeing how important satellite imagery, observation, and secure communications has also become very important, because we've heard of certain events of satellite providers actually being blinded and not being able to provide their types of communications and provide services to their customers, which is where something like Starlink has come in to try to provide communication capabilities for people on the ground in Ukraine. So being able to have secure, uninterrupted communication, surveillance, observation is something that's incredibly important. But as we look to the future build out of how space may play a role in military conflict, it's not just communications, it's not just these other areas that we've discussed, but very importantly, different technologies like drones, how they are contacted, how we're able to control them. In the future, there are many that believe that instead of just one person operating a drone, there'll be something called a drone swarm, where you have numerous drones interacting with each other, in many cases using AI. But in order for them to have these types of connectivities, satellites will play a very important role. Another area that's been brought up very recently is hypersonic technology. Actually, something that Virgin Galactic is working on in human hypersonic point to point travel. But when it comes to actual military use cases for hypersonic technology, this is being able to send manned crafts, unmanned crafts, and even weapons capabilities using some of the fastest technology ever developed by humankind. Just recently, there have been many defense experts that have said that the US has fallen behind, and countries such as Russia as well as China have potentially leapfrogged US hypersonic capabilities. But space is something that's extremely important, and being able to guide and communicate with these hypersonic weapons as well as crafts is something that satellites are being developed for as we speak today. So, to the extent that we're fighting a futuristic war, satellites and space-based capabilities become extremely important. And smart munitions is another one of those areas as well. So for defensive and offensive capabilities, space is becoming absolutely critical. And that's something that I think people are just starting to wake up to. And that is an area that we're already seeing militaries, defense groups as well, starting to invest significant dollars, realizing that in order to compete and remain relevant and hopefully dominant, that space is a must-spend area for these various groups.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button below. And I want to know your thoughts on the space industry. Would you be putting your money into this? What do you think about the future growth here? Let me know in the comments box below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.